Welcome back to Skin Deep Media. I'm your host, J Rod, and as promised, here is part 2 of the Eddie Rye podcast. Part 1 talked about his background and how he came into activism. Part 2 just takes it further into present day. Eddie Rye is just a pure Northwest icon. Enjoy. We'll be back. Out.
Actually challenged the constitutionality by 200. Now, we look at the fact that in 2013, all women, including white women, all minorities received less than 1% of the state's pie. In 2014, we did 1.2%.
Yeah.
So, and it's not preferential treatment when a white man gets 99%. Something's wrong with that. University of Washington never hit 1%. But yet they have a special provision from the legislature to run their own contracting. And they need a watchdog more than anybody. $280 million on a football stadium and a black didn't get a dime.
Yeah.
Who's going to be making that white institution money? Black football players running up and down the field. They are not getting paid. It's nothing but modern day slavery. The NC2A got rules to make sure that young black men stay in school to make them money while not paying them, not giving their families a dime, not letting their brothers and sisters in school. And we had more blacks at the University of Washington in 1974 than we have in 2015. Something's wrong with that picture, because what it is, well, if you see the way they treat the president, it's obvious. It's obvious Rodney Jones not going to get treated well either, okay? Anytime you can sit back and see this president insulted like he has been, his citizenship question, his loyalty question, it's nothing but overt racism. That's all there is to it. And this is the other reason why African Americans or blacks need to go to the United Nations and start asking for some foreign aid to help combat this racism in this country.
Yeah, I was hearing, I forget who it was thinking about taking the United States to the World Court. Because I know Malcolm talked about
anything we can do to bring about some equity for African Americans, descendants of slaves, is what we need to do. Because right now, people are, and I have nothing against the recent African immigrants, but don't tell me that recent African immigrants are going to take the place of African Americans who are the descendants of slaves who have built this country and never been paid for it. Okay, that's a debt that's still owed, and I'm not going to people. That's history. Yeah, that's what they want you to do. Why don't you just let that go? Well, the Jews don't let the Holocaust go. Okay, and what they did to the Indians should never be forgotten. Never. And what they did to us should never be forgotten. But they want you to forget that, and then they come back with President Barack Obama, the same form of racism. If Barack Obama was white, he would be one of the greatest presidents ever in the history of America, and he would have his face on Mount Rushmore.
Yeah. But he is one of the greatest presidents.
There's no question about it. From the crap he picked up, and everything they've done, the very first night he was elected, that's our job, as Mitch McConnell said, is to make sure he's a one-term president. And they did everything they could to oppose him. He still succeeded. All of his, I don't care if it's been dealing with the things in the Ukraine or anywhere else, he's been successful. His strategies work. And the thing about it is, what we need to do, if these folks are so hungry for war, Congressman Charlie Rangel said, let's reinstate the draft. Let's let them rich white kids get out there and see how eager they are to go to war. But as long as they can take the marginalized, the poor whites, the blacks, and Latinos, and send them out there, and they'll send a Latino to war and be trying to deport his family at the same time. So, that stuff is totally unfair. And I'm glad that the Congressional Black Caucus of folks are standing up and speaking up.
Well, that's funny you say that, because I'm seeing a way stronger, forceful, like I'm doing it like this, Obama now. And it excites me, especially he just did Keystone the other day.
Vetoed.
Turned that down. There's something else getting ready to come across his desk. He already said that's not going to go. I'm going to veto it because it's not in the best interest of the people.
Exactly.
I hear blacks, African Americans, when he first got elected, saying, we have a black president, and they thought that there was going to be a lot of stuff coming to black Americans, and my counter was that black people did not put him in office.
The country did. Yeah. But the bottom line is that everybody got to just get reinvigorated and start standing up. People complain to themselves, but you got to get engaged and get involved. People talk about the NAACP. I'm sorry. The NAACP led us to where we are now. Now it's up to us to continue to march. Yeah. And I'm going to support black organizations that's been out there historically. I mean, other ethnic groups will have no problems, whether they agree with the Jewish organization or Japanese American Citizens League or organization of Chinese Americans or El Centro de la Raza, they're going to support it. Okay? We need to do whether you agree or not. You don't know what they did for your grandmother, your great-grandfather. Right. You have no idea how they helped. Right. And so you're going to sit back based on your own little ego. Well, they're not doing this. Well, what are you doing? Right. What are you doing? So before you say what the Urban League or the NAACP or any other African-American organization or black organization is doing, look in the mirror and see what you're doing. Right. You don't even send a check for $10 to the NAACP. Yep. They might, your son or daughter might need some help. Your brother or sister might need some help. Where are you going to go? If you don't support our organizations, you're not going to have any help.
I agree with you, absolutely. You know what, and there are two other things that I want to hit on real quick. And you touched on one of them, how the activism has changed here now with all this technology and with the Facebook and doing stuff like that. Do you, and you don't have to name any names, do you see any potential black leaders in this community coming forward soon?
I see young people leading all across the country with the killings of these black men. I have never in my life seen so many young people engage without anyone saying be here at 12 o'clock, they might be there at 2 o'clock. It's so encouraging to see the students of Garfield, South, Roosevelt. Right. Never heard of white folks having demonstrations about black lives before. People say, oh, this happened. No, it never happened. Long time ago, it was black people organizing and white sympathizers showing up. But to have like these young women down in California, young ladies basketball tournament, all white affluent neighborhood, and this one team shows up with I Can't Breathe t-shirts. They put the young white ladies out of the tournament. They set up a protest in front of the gym, attract all these people. Oh no, come on back in, you can play. I've never ever seen young whites stand up for black folks without the leadership of black people. That's encouraging and inspiring to me about the fact that this country is going to change and that these young folks have a lot more sympathetic than their parents and grandparents.
I like that. And I wanted to just add what I see happening. The media, mainstream media controls so much of the information, and the mainstream media is controlled by such a small group of the population. With the internet, because net neutrality was big to me, what they were going to do with the internet. With you doing your show on the radio and other people around the country doing YouTube shows and stuff like that with this, I love the internet.
Oh, absolutely.
The information, television is somewhere else, but the internet has all this different information. And if we could ever consolidate our views and just run it out there, and I guess what I'm trying to say in a nutshell, for me personally, it's like, man, you were a great influence to me and other people, including the Browns. I remember, what's the brother's name who hit the mayor? Omari. You guys were out there standing up, the Dixons. I was part of the free breakfast program. And that taught me not how to read, but how to read, to go and get that information.
Yes.
And so I see that, I'm 56 years old. I see things going by the wayside. I have kids in their 30s and stuff. And the music and everything else, sure, you can go and say, hey, it's negative, we can blame that. But I don't think that's a problem. I just think it's the lack of education, especially what you said about money. A lot of people don't understand how money works. And if you knew how money worked, there would be a change. So going forward, what do you feel needs to happen, not across the country, but here in the CD? Will we ever get it back?
That goes back to being economically. When you start seeing houses on 21st right off Cherry for $350,000, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, den, and you can go out and rent and get a Lake Ridge and get a 5-bedroom, 3-car garage for the same amount of money.
Right.
And the fact, I don't know if a lot of folks would want to be isolated in the central area.
Right, yeah. That's
you know what I'm saying?
That's
so, so now, it's just a different thing altogether. But I just think that we have to, do what we have to do where we are.
Right.
And I know there's still a lot of black folks do live in the central area, but you start looking at the institutions like the churches and stuff. A lot of those churches were built so people could walk to them, and it's just not going to be there. I know that a lot of the churches in the area are still having some problems because of, it's like, and it's so much disrespect too, like putting that pot shop right next to Mount Calvary.
I couldn't believe it.
And then there's Casey Family Foundation. They haven't said anything. They're right across the street. And then you got the new the Mount Calvary Youth Center. Then there's a daycare. It's all within 1,000 feet. And everybody's saying, well, no, we're sorry, unintended consequence based on this law. But I'd be willing to bet you they wouldn't have that pot shop next to a synagogue or a big white church. It wouldn't happen. So what they need to do is that all the clergy members need to come in and get the state to change the law to make sure that those shops are not 1,000 feet away from a church.
I think that's some consolidated power, the clergy. If they could all come together and with a common cause, maybe it can help.
They did a good job last Friday for the African American Legislative Day. That was put together and has been sponsored for the last 6 years by the Washington Christian Leadership Coalition, which is Reverend Steve Baber and Dr. Arthur Banks out of Tacoma, the co-chairs. And a lot of people complain, oh man, why are the pastors doing that? Well, I'm glad somebody's doing it.
Right, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So they brought in, and there were probably 100 young people, high school students down there. So, anybody that can put something together to bring elected officials and have them exposed to 100 young African American. There were a couple of other students of other ethnic groups that want to be with us, which is great. They're all welcome. And I just have to applaud Reverend Baber and Reverend Banks and Verlene Jones, Mayfield Randolph, because she was really the organizing force, and James Davis, her husband. They really do a good job of putting that together. So, I'm not going to criticize anyone that's bringing us together, particularly when they involve our young folks.
Right.
And they have them at the state capitol. You go down to the state capitol, you see young white kids all the time on tours.
Yeah.
So we go down there, and it just so happened they had it during the week where the kids had the winter break. And they had over 100 young folks from Bremerton, from South King County, and I tell you, if somebody want to see a good organization at work in a city, the Kent Black Action Commission. Sister Gwen Allen Carson and her husband Charles and Richard Johnson, his wife Azalea, and others, they're doing an outstanding job in interfacing with the mayor, the Kent City Council, and the Kent School District, and they're doing some fantastic things.
There's another organization, I used to go to their meetings, they were far, but I was impressed with them. That's the Black Collective.
Oh, absolutely, in Pierce County.
Yeah,
I go at least once a month.
Yeah.
I'm scheduled to go this Saturday.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
The Colored Women's Club. You see the Hilltop, boy, that Colored Women's Club is draft by those huge condos now on the view of the bay.
Yeah.
I was wondering how long they were going to let that property sit there. So.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yes.
But I had an opportunity to conversate with Lyle.
Yeah, Lyle Quasim, yes indeed.
Charles Wilson of the city of Tacoma,
yeah, Charles.
and other brothers, and
they got Harold. They have their elected officials show up. And,
yes.
Denny Heck, his legislative aide, Latasha Wortham, she's there. You'll see the deputy mayor, Victoria Woodards, and every now and then Marilyn Strickland, the mayor, comes through. Harold Moss, former mayor and county council member, and you got folks involved with the school district. You got architects like Dalton Giddings. I mean, it's a.
I'm not gonna mention any names, but there was a meeting, and it was what you call those people who get those contracts with the city about work quotas. I forget what you call them. God dog it. Dan Sedell is one. Eric Alizé is one. And they go to a construction company to help them meet the numbers of the job. Anyway, one of these particular individuals came to the collective meeting to talk about their progress. And so the person is talking, maybe about 10 or 15 minutes. All of a sudden, Lyle stands up and says, wait a minute, you haven't said nothing. you need to go get your act together and come back and present again. And seeing that and seeing this person's face, because they were basically embarrassed and humiliated, and walk out there and leave the meeting. He didn't sit back down in his chair, he got his stuff and left. The first thing that came to my mind, these brothers demand accountability.
Exactly.
And and it's like, you are one of the few people in this city, I'm not trying to kiss your ass, but you're one of the few people in this city who has always demanded accountability, and then people will try to smear you. Some of your own race.
That comes with the church.
Yeah, exactly.
If you don't do anything, you can't be criticized.
Yeah, you just take me back to Stokely and H-Rap and that Malcolm X type thing. You don't scream black nationalism, but I hear some of that about self-supporting. We gotta be included. We're paid taxes like everybody else. What I operate on is hard data. Right.
I'm not gonna get out there and say what I think you're doing. I'm gonna say what I know you're doing.
Right.
And if the information is not accurate, it's on you because it's your information.
Right.
Okay. And anytime we look and see where African Americans are doing less than 1/10 of 1% with the county, with the city, with these federal projects, and they consistently have a large white-owned business in charge. Once they get the contract, they can do whatever they damn well please. That's unacceptable.
Right.
And so we're going to have better accountability from the government agencies.
Well, and then that brings me to another point. I spoke with Dr. Moss, he always gives me a hard time. But we don't have a working relationship with them, the Black Collective. Sharing information, common goals, the whole nine. They don't really deal with anybody up here for the reasons I know I'm not going to get into in this interview, but they just stay in their lane and they seem to be having a lot of success with it. But here, like you said, facts and hard data. The hard fact and data is this: we are not prospering, and there's a lot of money in this town.
Absolutely.
Technology, construction, fashion, these are the hubs of the country for that.
Yes.
And it's like, we are not participating.
Here, let me on the Black Collective. With the situation at the airport, I mentioned earlier, with the minorities being kicked out and the foreign corporations being extended, a letter went to the Secretary of Transportation, Anthony Fox, and 25 organizations signed off on a letter. Representative Sharon Tomiko Santos is the chair of the National Asian Pacific Islander Local Elected Officials, Council of Local Elected Officials. One of the four, like we have a National Black Caucus of Local Elected Officials, the black one, there's a Latino, so she's one of the four quad chairs. She signed this letter. Lau Kwasim signed a letter. Reverend Dr. Gregory Christopher, president of Tacoma NAACP, signed a letter. Reverend Tony Montgomery, president of the Tacoma Ministerial Alliance, signed a letter. The Japanese American Citizens League, the Organization of Chinese Americans, Estela Ortega from El Centro de la Raza, the Seattle NAACP, so the national, like I said, I go over there once a month. I have a relationship with these guys, and because of Seattle Tacoma International Airport, there is no reason why there shouldn't be some black businesses in Tacoma with shops at SeaTac.
Yeah,
it is Seattle Tacoma International Airport.
Yes, it is.
So by me taking that over there, now they see it in a different perspective. Hey, our name is in that airport too, and so our people need to be working over there as well. So I don't just go in there like you said, the guy going there and do a report. I have a relationship. I don't always have stuff on the agenda. Most of the time, I'm the only one from Seattle. So Eddie, what's happening?
Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and Saturday I'll be over there again. And I work real well with those folks. They're far better organized than we are.
Definitely.
But then again, they haven't had the CD experience. They're going through it right now. But see, they're in Tacoma, Pierce County. They got people in from University Place.
Right.
Lyle lives in Puyallup. So they got, and people come from Lakewood. There's one brother drives up to the meetings from Rochester.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that. And every Saturday at 8 o'clock, unless it's Christmas, and I think they even show up then.
Yeah.
But 52 weeks out of the year, they meet.
for 46 years.
Yeah, right. So I mean, it's amazing. I'm just happy that I'm welcome to attend, and I'm gonna keep going. I'm working with folks all across the state, and those will probably be some of the folks who'll probably be more forceful in dealing with this whole bank thing and getting the Federal Reserve member.
Right.
Yeah. So.
So I got one last thing. One last thing. Tell me what's on the agenda going forward for Eddie Rye Jr.
Getting a full-fledged African-American owned bank for the Federal Reserve, trying to see if there's any way that when they have these programs set up for women and minorities, we need to have another category for descendant of slaves.
Right.
Okay, that's one of the things I'm pushing. So that way it's unequivocal. You can give white women whatever you want, you can give them other minorities whatever they have coming, but we got to have a category for descendant of slaves. We have that NSF check that Dr. King spoke about a long time ago, and it's time for us to cash our check.
Right.
Okay, if you just think about not only the 40 acres, but the millions of acres of land that were stolen from African Americans down south because folks couldn't read, they ran all other kind of games. So if they're not going to let you vote, they're going to steal your property.
Right.
Come on, now we need to revisit that. And I have cousins in Texas and Louisiana right now going through all the county records everywhere. Okay, and we're gonna see what the folks are made out of.
All right. Okay, hey man, well, I really appreciate you doing this with me, especially on such short notice. And I want to let everybody know again that Eddie has a show called the Urban Forum Northwest on KKNW, 11:50 a.m. on Thursdays from 2 to 3.
Repeats on Saturdays, 8 to 9 a.m.
You heard that. I suggest that everybody, old, young, all races, have a listen to his show and follow Eddie, because he's putting it out there, the real truth, and that's all we're trying to be. Thank you very much, Mr. Rye. Your legacy will live on.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Jones, thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks. Once again, I'd like to thank Eddie Rye Jr. for being a guest on Skin Deep Media's podcast. I'm your host, J. Rod. Please check out part 1. It's available at our website, www.skinndeepmedia.com. You can email any comments to skinndeepmedia@outlook.com. Hope you enjoyed it. We have more to come. Anybody who's anybody in this town will be coming on this podcast. Got a special guest coming up next time. Tune in to Skin Deep Media. Thank you.